Hey, and welcome to Wrestling and... Oh my God, it's been so long. It's been a couple weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. But today, we are talking about none other than wrestling and bad wrestling. And let me tell you, yes. If you're a fan, you've seen it. If you're not a fan, you've probably still seen it. We try to ignore it. We try not to talk about it. But sometimes bad wrestling can be so bad that it's actually good.
Or maybe it's one of those things where I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it, right?
Yeah, yes. Oh, you know it when you see it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And, when wrestling is so bad that it's good, often that's when bad wrestling can really shine. But then again, it's not just the matches. We've seen promos devolve from big dudes yelling into...
Or just storylines, yeah.
Yeah, we've seen writing that is so senseless, it defies all logical explanation. So join us on this journey of bad wrestling. But before we set off on the yellow brick road with throw up on it and stuff like that, let's see how Hollywood in-ring art Justin is. Justin, are you there?
I am here.
It's been a while, huh?
It really has. And of course, so much has happened since then.
So much has happened. You and I are different people at this point.
Every day we become different people. But
ourselves.
Yeah, I actually launched a website.
Oh shit.
So now if you go to inringart.com,
okay.
All my stuff is on there. I think
Tell me what the people are going to see on inringart.com as an audio podcast. Explain to a blind person what is on the website.
Well, I have to explain the whole concept of a website and the internet, right?
How does the internet work?
Well, I have all my drawings, like about 200 of my drawings for sale on there that I've been putting up day by day. I have a link to my T Republic shop and then also to our podcast right there in the homepage.
There you go. Everything he's involved in. How many drawings have you done altogether? Is it 200?
It's way more than that, to be honest with you.
Not everything's posted?
Not everything's posted. I probably would say I probably have in a range of probably in the boxes that I keep below this desk, filing boxes, I probably have about 300 drawings in that, give or take.
Wow. Is it like a comic book box where how they store comic books? A long box?
No, it's just a like a plastic file box, and I have files in there, like organized by like federation and stuff.
That's how they're organized, by the different where they wrestled.
So I'll have a new NJPW like file, WWF,
AEW. Now, if there's a transfer like Jeff Hardy, do you move the?
No. If I start drawing them afterwards, or it's from when they were clearly in that place, then I'll put it there too. So it might have people in different places, like. Jon Moxley with the U.S. title is going to be in New Japan folder.
But Dean Ambrose with the U.S. title is going to be in the WWE file.
Yeah, and I have a modern WWE category.
Classic.
And then I have like miscellaneous and indie.
Yeah,
like,
I would think other.
That way. Yeah.
Okay.
Or like legends or something. I don't know. Yeah, I try and keep it a little organized that way, just so if someone wants to buy one, I can find it. It's one that...
It's very similar to how I organize my adult films. I mean, by fetish. So, I mean, I can definitely see, a lot. And that's how they do it in Chatsworth, by the way.
Yes.
So,
I used to live there.
Well,
then, we talked about.
Then just some, life stuff on the side. Justin's been rooting for the Kings recently to advance to the playoffs. You've been going to the games.
That's been part of the delay, I guess. But,
how do you feel? How do you feel about the Kings' chances right now?
The chances? I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm not expecting them to win, but I think they can. They've won twice in Edmonton already, so why not another time?
They do definitely seem slightly not as good as the other team from what I've seen.
Well,
I'm just
the other
you.
team they have like two of the best players in the league, but the Kings are a little deeper in terms of just balance. But Edmonton's a team that they can just kind of score at any time. Well, the Kings are this young team that are kind of ahead of schedule in terms of their rebuilding.
Oh, okay. We're in
really
that phase.
Yeah, they're really outside of their 4 like veterans that were on the Stanley Cup winning teams. They're all really, really, really young players. So
okay,
they're kind of not a lot of people were expecting them to make the playoffs this year, and
they did. They did,
and that's to me that's been great. So I'm not really like upset at them losing the first round because I really didn't even expect them to get there. To be honest,
I'll tell you,
I
watched part of
making.
I watched part of their game where they were what 2-0 or was it 4-0 where they shut out
when they won 4-0. Yeah,
4-0. I gotta say that crowd is pretty intense down there in Los Angeles. Maybe that's just a hockey thing in general, and it is the playoffs, but those dudes were loud.
The Kings have some pretty loyal fans.
Yeah,
it's not like the Lakers, but they're definitely louder than Laker fans because there's more of the people that go are actually there to watch the game, not for the social situation.
Yeah, not just like, oh, I went to a Lakers game, so I gotcha. But it was pretty cool, and I do like the Kings air horn. They or alarm or what is it called?
The goal horn or whatever when they score. Yeah,
it's like I'm not one of those weirdos that will go on YouTube and listen to each, every one. But they have a pretty interesting one. So there you go, the Kings. So we're going to talk about bad wrestling. Justin, have you ever seen any bad wrestling before?
Well, definitely.
Yeah?
And it doesn't just take place in a ring.
Doesn't take place. Yeah, we're saying wrestling, but it's not just wrestling. It's everything involved in the business that can go real sideways.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't hit you 2 years later that, oh my God, that was so bad.
I mean, well... Especially if you're a kid, something that you're like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen, and then years later you're like, that is the worst performance.
Yeah, right. So that's
Hulk
what I'm
Hogan
saying
comes to mind.
A lot of it is just stuff that doesn't age well.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a big factor.
But then there's just a lot of stuff that was bad at the time, and then just, when we start talking about the Shocker and stuff like that, late 2000s WCW. And if you've been in the wrestling spheres for a while, like a lot of this stuff you guys have heard of, but we're filing it away. Justin and I want to talk about everything ever involved in wrestling, and that's the point of this podcast. You really can't talk wrestling until you start talking about what I would call the dark side of the ring. I made that term up, and that is bad.
Never heard it. That's
and that's bad wrestling, and it's been going on forever. So first of all, let's talk about styles change, stuff doesn't hold up.
Styles clash too.
Styles clash, yep. Wow, we're making up some cool shit today. But talk about how wrestling changes over time, and so some old stuff that was good back then might not be so good nowadays.
Yeah, I bet you there's a lot of things that you can pick out from the Attitude Era that didn't age well and were kind of bad wrestling. The whole Kai Val Venus thing, right?
Yeah, something we have mentioned. It's almost become famous on this show, but I chop you off your pee-pee. Yeah, it was a terrible angle, stupid, tone-deaf, trying to get kids, young boys to watch the show and laugh, South Park-esque. Just terrible, yeah. Bad stuff.
Yeah, it's just, I remember watching it, and, as a teenager, right? And legit just being, oh my God, that's, I was a fan of Val Venus back then, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
and
I liked him.
We thought it was legit, it just oh man, that pissed me off. Why are they,
It's like, damn, they're going to chop his dick off, dude. That sucks. Media, and we've talked about this, but at the Attitude Era, media in general had that edge to it. That was what was popular, but yeah, wrestling definitely took it way too far to the point where it's embarrassing to look back at. When I think, though, I'll tell you this, when I think of things that have changed, that aren't good anymore, that were good maybe, I think a lot of 80s wrestling, it's it was kind of hot at the time, but some of the stuff you go back and watch, and just some of it is real fucking boring, man.
Well, you're talking about maybe the early 80s stuff or something?
Early to mid 80s. I'm talking jobber matches on some of those world class or excuse me, like WCW jobber matches and stuff like that. I'm talking about even in the Japan in the 80s, you had matches that would constantly end in countouts, double countouts, double. Oh my God! It's like
I think at that time though, I think there was still a presentation of it being somewhat real.
Yeah, there was.
And it was like you would have those old wrestling matches in the 40s and 50s where they would literally just be kind of what some of these UFC fights are, where they're just kind of snuggling with each other and rolling around the mat for a while.
Yeah.
And I think there was just like a degree of realism that they had to protect it with, and I guess for some people that was kind of super boring, but at the time, if we were, it wasn't. Just like how I thought the Val Venus angle was, it elicited emotions out of me, not thinking, oh my God, this is terrible, but like, it made me angry, like, oh my God, the baby face is in trouble here. You know what I mean? So it's just we're talking about not aging well, I guess.
One form of wrestling that is like milk, as time goes by.
Some of it, yeah, definitely.
One form of what could be considered bad wrestling, even though at the time it was kind of fine, but and I do want to make one thing to say is that everyone knows this if you've been listening. Justin and I are lapsed fans, so we missed out on the whole TNA of the mid 2000s, which supposedly was just a treasure trove of terrible, terrible shit.
Yeah, I mean, I would check in periodically, and even the WWE from that era of 2005 to 2009 was allegedly really, really bad, because I would check in here and there just to see what was going on, and not be able to get through very much of it. So
yeah, and I don't blame you for that, man. So talking about we talk about bad matches, bad angles, and stuff that hasn't aged well. But wrestling is a activity that is based in individuals, and so you look at historically bad wrestlers, and we have trailblazers, right? Current, people like Toru Yano and Danhausen, who are really showing, how bad wrestling can be.
I haven't seen Danhausen wrestle, and I hear he's not bad. I've never seen a Danhausen match.
Well, me neither, but I mean, just everything else kind of, I think he's really a trailblazer for bad wrestling.
But I've never seen him wrestle. Well, I guess we did say how storylines, but I don't know. To me, I think bad wrestling has to be something that's kind of presented as good wrestling. Or a main, like, Toru Yano isn't like a main star, and either is Danhausen. They're little side clowns. They're presented to you as bad wrestlers.
So you're saying that, like, it has to be one of those things where, like, the wrestlers aren't really in on the joke on how fucking bad shit is?
Right.
Like, they're actually trying hard?
Yeah, they're trying, like, it's something that's presented as not, you know what I mean? Like, Toru Yano, he is supposed to be the bad wrestler and the comic relief on a card, and Danhausen the same thing. No one's going to take them as like a serious wrestler. So to me, it's almost like to call that bad wrestling is almost too easy.
I think you're ripping up my gimmick here, bro. Like, I always talk shit about him. I was being sarcastic.
But I'm just saying,
won't you just let me call them bad?
Well, I guess
too deep.
You're calling him kayfabe bad? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, they suck, but those guys aren't the first. Talk about, and I'll prompt you here, but when you think of like now, and I know you're a nice guy, Justin, and we get into this thing of like, well, I wouldn't say anything bad about that person and stuff, but this is the episode where we are going to do that. What wrestlers that are active nowadays or in the last few years are wrestlers that you were like, oh yeah, that guy just kind of sucks, or girl?
I definitely know there's some for sure.
Should I start prompting you? How about Nia Jax?
Yeah, she's terrible. Not only, just to other she hurts other people, so that's really bad.
Yeah.
Not on purpose.
Yeah.
Braun Strowman's terrible.
You think Braun Strowman is terrible? I saw him as just doing his thing, you know. He seemed like a little cooler than almost.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are telling me Omos is good, but I'm not impressed. I don't know. It's like, when they get the big stiff guys that can't really do anything. I just like Khali. I mean, come on,
Khali.
Right?
Yeah, Giant Gonzalez. Now that
what a waste. Yeah,
that is a real fucking bad wrestler.
And honestly, who's that the big guy they have with AEW now with
Singh?
Less of that, please.
It almost makes you appreciate Paul White so much more when you think about these big dudes and how often.
I wouldn't. Paul White wasn't a stiff.
I'm saying that it makes you appreciate him more because he was such a big guy and he was actually good.
Right.
As opposed to all these others. Satnam Singh is his name, by the way. But almost. So the big guy curse, and that's always been you bring in a big guy. And the reason you bring in a big guy is for one reason, because he's big, right?
You know what? Honestly, there's not a lot of big men that I've been a fan of. Andre the Giant was another guy, probably not a great wrestler, but there was still something about him that made him legendary.
Definitely. He's actually had some good matches, though. I'm not gonna lie. Before, when he was a little more limber,
right? But he was one of those people that was just bigger. Then you know what I mean, like
he was just big. That was his gimmick. Like he's fucking huge,
Right.
And that obviously wrestling is an athletic deal here, and that's been something in wrestling forever, right? The big guy. That's just a normal type of thing, and I'm not talking about Ryback, who was another. Who's another person that might be
garbage,
easily added to the list.
Garbage person, garbage wrestler.
Yeah, like that's all around.
And honestly, you want to get really deep with me. I'm going to talk Ultimate Warrior, terrible. I never liked Hogan, was terrible. There were some bad wrestlers. One of my favorite bad wrestlers was probably Sid.
Oh, yeah.
He was terrible, but I liked his promos and his presentation. But he was a terrible wrestler. Lex Luger was a terrible wrestler.
Was Lex Luger a terrible wrestler? I haven't watched enough of him to really... I know that they wanted the dude to take over Hulk Hogan's role, but Lex Luger had a weird-looking face. I always thought that since I was a kid. Like, he looks weird, like, real weird. And But Hulk Hogan, though, has just tons of charisma, dude.
Oh, no, I mean, he definitely, he put wrestling on the map.
But you mean in the ring... Yes, he did suck.
Ring,
he had a fucking leg drop as a finish.
But then again, I don't really think matches weren't as important.
Yeah, match quality was not as important back then. It was the experience. Yeah. So,
it was like a formulaic kind of procedural show or like a sitcom where it was like...
It was like Power Rangers. It was the same shit. Monster of the Week. They fight a different monster every week. They do the exact same moves. And we were talking about Power Rangers before the show, by the way, people. But Sailor Moon, it's like they do the exact same shit and then they just fight a different dude every couple... But different with Hogan is he fought the same dudes.
It was the same kind of 3-bar structure and beginning, middle, end. And followed by a leg drop, which wasn't even that great.
No.
I know we'll probably take the kind of criticism from a lot of people. I just never I always liked the bad guys more, and I always knew somebody was a talented wrestler like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Mr. Perfect. I just appreciated those guys a lot more because
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I didn't know it. I just took whoever they gave me, I wouldn't... although, even as a kid, I do remember, making... I'm talking in first grade, I would still, kind of make fun of Hulk Hogan, be like, he's hulking up again. It's
Yeah.
We all knew that shit was coming.
I like the personalities, too, like $1 Million Man, and, I even
Razor
loved,
Ramon.
Yokozuna was a good one until he just got too unhealthy. He was actually pretty good.
I actually like
decent.
Yokozuna. I'm like one of the few people that love his casket matches with The Undertaker. People make fun of that stuff, but I thought Chuck Norris came out. Yes, that was kind of dumb, but Chuck Norris fucked up Jeff Jarrett, dude.
Well, Chuck Norris was somebody that you could actually believe could hurt,
especially at the time.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you know,
but
not like some of the celebrities they bring back now.
Yeah, and some of the celebrity disasters we've had in wrestling. Tell me now. I know that the Bad Wrestling Podcast. Shout outs to them, and the Bad Wrestling Podcast. You know, they have kind of their little Hall of Fame or Hall of Shame or whatnot. And the Ascension is definitely in there. You remember them, Connor? And...
Yeah. I mean, I remember them. Like actually. In NXT, they were champions, out, like maulers, and just devastating. You know, like almost like kind of like the Acolytes were.
Sad thing is, I didn't hate them as much as everyone else at first. I thought they were okay.
Well, they brought them up, and then that's when they got bad because they brought them up as these legend killers, right?
Oh boy, dudes are like 40 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they were like, who I can't remember some, like maybe they beat like the New Age Outlaws, or they were beating up all the classic tag teams or whatever at the time, and it was just they were brought up horribly. They should just came up as, you know, kind of ass kickers, just like they were in NXT, but and it just.
I remember those guys. You remember back when WWE wouldn't release people every couple months like the same way they do now? I know they did, but it wasn't the same. I remember like those guys were part of WWE, I swear, for like years and never wrestled. You know what I mean?
Right. Just, well, there was a lot of guys it would take a long time that you wouldn't see them and where they would get released. I mean,
Primo and Epico, dude, were I swear for like 3 years paid by WWE. I think they forgot about them.
Or even someone like Hornswoggle, who really stuck around for a while.
Yeah.
As a contracted wrestler.
Nowadays, they're just like, hey, we're not using you, peace.
Or we just use you, and we don't need you anymore. Or we need to cut some, you know.
They're like, we might call you in
a
couple months. Stock. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me about Gangrel.
Gangrel was pretty damn cool for the time when he was up there.
But his legacy's changed over the years.
You know, he was the one that kind of meshed together with Edge and Christian, the Brood.
Yep.
They had one of the most popular theme songs of all time, and one of the honestly, one of the coolest entrances of all time. You know, but that was a time where match quality or matches themselves weren't really as emphasized as the storylines were. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if it's fair to call Gangrel a bad wrestler.
I do, because we're not talking Attitude Era at this point. We're talking Gangrel later in life, who kept the vampire gimmick to this day. Okay.
Yeah.
He, Edge and Christian moved on real quick, did their own thing. And Gangrel is still, he was a C-tier wrestler back then, and he's kept that gimmick going on to this day. And, he gained a lot of weight, and he's still doing his own thing, Still going.
I think he's got a school, I think, in Florida or something.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
good for Gangrel. He's getting that money still.
Yeah, I don't really know why he kind of faded out quicker than guys like Edge and Christian, but obviously Edge and Christian
probably a different skill level, dude. A whole different skill level.
And yeah, I think he just evolved. And unfortunately, if Gangrel started when that whole vampire-y time was with the werewolves, the Twilight and all that, he might have had a whole nother run.
I don't know though. The dude don't have a good look either, and he never had.
It was pretty cool with the teeth and all that stuff, and he had the poofy Seinfeld shirt, but no, he was all right. He was cool for his time, but he definitely wasn't going to be like Edge or Christian or be a champion one day.
Oh, he wasn't going to be anywhere near that. He's lucky because not often do jobbers get in featured roles. So, I mean,
but I definitely think for that time it was one of the more people are pretty fond of that little brood thing.
By people, you mean you.
Well, not. I mean, it was okay, but there was a lot of people that loved the brood.
I think it's because
they were okay to me.
it's in hindsight because of Christian and Edge.
Yeah, but I think the whole thing with their brothers and the cruiserweight title or whatever it was called at the time, the light heavyweight kind of thing going around with Christian was. It was all right. It was I could see people nostalgic for that entrance and all that stuff. So what was Gangrel's best match? Or did you know what I mean? Like, of course not.
Speaking of also bad things involved in wrestling, I think Christian needs a call out here for his see-through muscle shirt that he would wear. Do you know that one?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, sure.
That deserves a shout out.
Yeah.
I guess it was popular at the time, but he had long hair.
Yeah. He had the long hair, yeah.
Talk about bad wrestlers. Jack Swagger. I think he sucks. He's one of the worst AEW wrestlers. He does his job. I will say that. He does his job. He does his role.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's a legit amateur. So, and a very good athlete.
MMA fighter as well. So, yes. And he's big.
Probably could, yeah. No, I mean... See, very athletic, so, he doesn't have 2 left feet or anything. But, yeah, he's one of those guys that isn't as natural as, maybe Kurt Angle's transition.
He is what you would call, the charisma vacuum guy, where he just, can't even play a character. He's just angry guy,
Yeah, I think his presentation now is much better than anything they did in WWE for him.
It is better because they kind of tried to push him as some almost like a superstar type of, And
it's really tempting to get a legit fighter and to put him in that position. To want to use him in pro wrestling. It's very tempting to want to do that. We're not talking about just some guy who lifts a bunch of weights.
Yeah,
like the Ultimate Warrior. And you know what I mean? We're talking about a guy that you see as a legitimate athlete, or like a Dr. Death Steve Williams, or Kurt Angle, or
Chad Gable,
or Mark Henry being the weightlifter and kind of an athlete, Olympic athlete. There's a temptation there to want to, not just some musclehead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know that, and they're even getting more hardcore on that now, but. I mean, all things are relative. Bad in AEW means that they're probably actually kind of okay because AEW has such good wrestlers. Same thing with New Japan. Although you do have people like Iizuka and Geto and stuff like that who are another. In fact, let's use this. Let's talk about some of the New Japan guys that really kind of.
You know what? Sometimes the best heat you can have is just being a bad wrestler, right? I mean,
the best what you can have.
The best heat,
I don't think that's the best heat, dude. I think that's called go away heat.
But I think Geto is there to not be a wrestler, but trying to, you know what I mean, that. I mean,
Geto's
obviously
a little different.
He's about 50 years old.
He's more of a manager. He's always out there, right? So it's I kind of understand that he does his Dusty Rhodes punches and stuff like that, and. Well,
I notice he's doing a lot less now that they actually have people back there. He's not going to be in World Tag League or anything.
But what about Jotto?
Jotto, yeah. I mean, the guy's in great shape, but he can barely walk.
Sometimes he is. He goes back and forth, you know what I mean?
Well, he looks great, but he can barely walk, and there's no reason for him to be out.
Barely walk, barely can wrestle.
Yeah. He just can't. He just doesn't have the knees anymore. It's not because... I don't remember ever seeing him in his prime, so I can't really comment.
That's the other thing. I don't think the guy was... Now, Jotto and Geto obviously was a considered a good tag team, but Jotto never had the kind of wrestling stuff that Geto had, where Geto was actually, going for championships and Best of Super Juniors. Jotto, so I think when you look at New Japan, Jotto is probably one of the worst wrestlers in the group. And yeah, he's old, right? We get it.
Well, he's old, and he just doesn't have any legs, really.
And neither did Manabu Nakanishi, who, yes, could put on a good match with Nagata. Yes, give you that, okay?
Right.
He there was something inside of him. But at the time, oh my God, watching him was hard, dude. The guy looked like he was falling apart.
Well, let me ask you this: would you consider a guy like George the Animal Steel a bad wrestler?
Yeah.
But still, the guy was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
He would eat the turnbuckle. He had the hair everywhere.
He was a bad wrestler, okay, but he did have some type of charisma. That's like Iizuka, right? Iizuka is very similar, where he was like, had his he was kind of scary and scared the children and stuff. That was kind of old school. But once it got into the ring, man, it got real fucking bad real quick.
Well, I think that's where I think there needs some of that needs to be in wrestling. I think you got those kind of weird characters that aren't great, but you know what I mean. I don't know. Just
I agree.
Iizuka was kind of funny and amusing and different.
It was funny, and he if thank God he quit before COVID, because once that hit, he wouldn't have he would have lost his gimmick basically, scaring children and stuff, but. Right. Yeah, but that you got to be careful with that, because that can really border on cringiness and jump over the border.
At the same time, they never made him like a champion or anything.
No, but they did have the whole storyline of him fucking losing his
Iron Claw,
and then they wrestled over it, and it like legit looked like tinfoil wrapped around.
Well, that was after he retired, though, right?
I think so. They had a cage match for the claw.
They had a ladder match with it.
But even then, do you remember when they did Iizuka, and was it Tenzan? And like he was trying to bring him back. This got pretty ridiculous. Tenzan was trying to bring him back to his mind, bringing his mind back to him.
That might have been before I started watching New Japan.
And I mean, you gotta admit, bro, that sounds like WWE. Like he was trying to, you come back to be your friend and stuff. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of liked it. So
yeah, there you go. See, sometimes it's as long as it's not like making Great Khali the champion and beating the Undertaker
or Jack Swagger. He was champion too. Yeah, Khali.
Yeah, but at least I can believe that Jack Swagger could beat somebody up. Right?
Yes, but could well, I could believe that Jake Hager would beat someone up. I don't know about Jack Swagger.
Well, I mean, come on. But I mean, a guy like Great Khali who can barely walk, let alone get over a rope into a ring, and just do like smack someone with his hand, like that is more unbelievable than. A guy who was actually a legit like wrestler in college, and MMA fighter. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? I wasn't a huge like Ken Shamrock fan because I thought he was a void of personality and all that stuff, but he was still somebody who like was like a legitimate like could hurt somebody. You know what I mean?
Do you think the same thing about Steve Blackman?
Yeah.
Did you think the same thing about Glacier?
No.
You think Glacier is a bad wrestler?
I thought it was a really badly presented character.
Yeah, definitely a white dude, kind of playing an Asian character with the blue eye.
Well, first of all, they tried to make it like Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat, but they were about 3 or 4 years past the trend. If they would have put that character in 1993, it might have hit big.
Yeah.
But the fact that they did it in 97 or 96, they just missed the whole Mortal Kombat thing.
Yeah.
It was just a little too late,
Yeah, they were already on like Mortal Kombat 3 at that point,
Or people just weren't in, you know what I mean? Like it was kind of getting into the PlayStation 1 kind of era.
Yeah.
Siphon Filter or whatever.
Late 90s, yeah.
Tekken,
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it kind of passed by. So that was a horrible, that I don't know if he was a bad wrestler, but that was bad wrestling. There you go.
Yeah. Do you think the Boogeyman is bad wrestling? Or are we back in Iizuka territory where that's necessary?
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so the Boogeyman was something that, I wasn't into it at the time, but I kind of, if the Boogeyman, if you're going through the dial and you see the Boogeyman doing something, you're going to watch it for a minute, right? Because that's just a very
maybe
with striking look, and you see him eating the worms and stuff, and it's definitely attention grabbing. The only match he really had was with the Booker T. WrestleMania.
I heard they were real bad.
Yeah, I mean, that was a guy who was what?
He has a
in his
body,
late
though.
40s? No, the look is great, right?
Yeah, he's like a fitness dude.
I mean, yeah. And he made it, he was in his like late 50s, or his like late 40s when he was on Tough Enough or something like that, right? And he lied about his age.
I didn't know about all that.
Yeah, he really lied about his age. And I think he was like 35 and he was claiming to be like 25 or something like
He
that.
probably pulled it off. You know, when you know what's weird, because with WWE, a lot of they're gonna have their comedy guys, right? And like some of the comedy guys can definitely like lean towards real dumb comedy that's just bad stuff. But some of them are real.
What's your take on a guy like Santino?
Oh, he's great, hilarious,
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually funny. Now, they probably didn't write him great all the time. I thought the Cobra thing was a fucking landmark moment in professional wrestling. When he made Great Khali played the flute and made him...
Well, see, listen, that's bad wrestling that's gone right. It's bad wrestling, but it's entertaining, right?
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with, you said, it's about the intentions, right? They know it was stupid, but when these two guys, when you have Hulk Hogan out there giving an intense promo and he accidentally misspeaks and says, "I'm the right gay guy," that is hilarious. Right. And bad, right. And but bad in a good way, you know? Or when Sid, God, messing up promos, you know, Sid screwing up promos and just totally going off the rails, losing control. Booker T saying the N-word, you know, on accident. It's like, oh, God, you really shouldn't have done that. But
that's a whole different, that's, you know, live TV stuff happens sometimes.
It's part of the enjoyment. That's part of what makes bad wrestling good because of the live TV. You know, you never know what's going to happen.
It took us, 37 minutes to get to this point that sometimes the bad wrestling is good, right?
No, I said it at the beginning.
A lot of the times,
I said sometimes, sometimes it can be really good. I mean, it can be hilarious, and that's where Botchamania, and Wrestle Crap, which shout-outs to Wrestle Crap, that's an old group of guys. It's like they've been around since the 2000s and probably earlier, and I read their book, too, the Wrestle Crap book. Found it wildly entertaining. The book talked about the gobbledygooker. This is where I first learned about that, It also taught me about Mae Young giving birth to the hand.
Terrible.
Yeah. And then I think it said that like Vince McMahon wanted to run a slave angle. Like with some black dudes as a slave gimmick. So now that's where we're getting into like bad wrestling. That's like wrong
we're talking
too.
About Roddy Piper painting himself half black.
Yeah, stuff like that.
When DX kind of did the blackface thing.
Oh boy, yeah.
Just
totally tone deaf, unaware.
A lot of stuff that didn't. I laughed at it at the time, but it's stuff that didn't age
Justin.
Well.
The woke will come get you.
Obviously, that's part of it is you realize, oh my God, that was bad, late now. But at the time, that's not what the mindset was, and that's not what, you know what I mean? Whether you liked it or not, that was the reality,
I honestly do believe that if you do talk about bad wrestling, like racism plays a crucial role in all that, because wrestling is such a industry rife with stereotypes, or it has been for years, In a way, it still has all that, especially in NXT. But, we got the sneaky Japanese guy, you know what I mean? And the in fact, I know that Yokozuna got, they were getting calls from, I don't know the exact group or organization, but it was, the Japanese American, And they were getting, repeated complaints about, dude's not Japanese, right. You guys are racist as fuck,
Well, I mean, if you just look at, everything from wrestling to James Bond movies, you always had the foreign villain, right?
Yeah.
I mean, or the villain that wasn't, from a Western, was always a villain. So there wasn't a lot of, Japanese or Asians were almost automatically villains, right? Mr. Fuji, all those things,
Oh yeah.
Villains.
Oh yeah. And I mean, even in Japan, the American was the villain often.
There you go. So, I mean, obviously we've evolved from that time a little bit.
A little bit better, and then you turn on Raw and see Akira Tozawa as a ninja who can't speak English, running around and getting married. So
or just always being the little sidekick and stuff. Yeah, it's bad.
You want to hear some like real bad wrestling, dude? Raw Underground.
That was really bad.
That was bad to the point where it was like not even that great. Like it was just bad. I mean, and you know what was even better is they just stopped one day. They're just like just disappeared off the TV. No follow up.
They do that with a lot of stuff.
They do. And actually, I think that when you talk about bad wrestling, bad writing in WWE, nowadays, like, you have a lot of that type of stuff. And there's one I'll bring up that's a classic to me, but the Raw Underground, it came out of nowhere. It had women, like, strippers pole dancing in the background, you know.
It just kind of reminded me of one of those cheesy, like, 90s shows that would come on, and like it would be like these kung fu fighters or whatever.
I could see that.
Somewhat like American Gladiators kind of style, but it was more scripted. I mean, who was asking for that?
Oh God, no one. I mean, it was just like I don't even remember the impetus behind it. I mean, it was COVID was one.
Were they trying to do something like Fight Club,
yeah,
which was a popular movie in 1999?
Yeah, I guess. I think maybe, I don't know, dude. It's the WWE audience is not known as like a bunch of hardcore worked shoot fight fans. So I don't know. No one knows why that happened. And then like Shane McMahon was running it, another wrestler who's had his own. You know, at times you could call the guy, especially in his old age now, a bad wrestler. Shane still can jump off a pole and like travel 30 feet, you know, but
you know, call Shane what you want, but that dude, I mean, he'd do anything, and has had some of the most memorable in-ring moments in WWF history.
Yes. Again, I'm talking the last 5-6 years. Yeah, he has done some crazy dives. He jumped off a cage and hit Kevin Owens and all that stuff.
He jumped off that what was it in the Steve Blackman match, that scaffold or whatever, and then he got put through the glass with Kurt Angle. Shane's done some. He's done some crazy shit.
But again, like really, back in the day, maybe it was different, but now. Yes, he does do the crazy shit once in a while, but it's like the worked punches and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's not good.
Yeah.
I don't need to see him wrestle ever again. I think we could both agree on that, and I think most fans agree.
Yeah, and it gets to the point, too, where it's like, I don't want to see someone that old doing this type of shit. That was what was up with the Jeff Hardy match recently. I mean, they had a couple spots in there that, like, you shouldn't do on TV. Like, you do that on a WrestleMania, you know? It's like, why would you do that? But anyway, it's just hard to watch older people doing stuff like that.
But then there's some guys that, like Sting, who's been doing really well with that stuff. But it's been very, like, sporadic and not overdone and kind of surprising.
Dude, when Sting does a dive, there's 15 people below him. Like, security guards are getting there to catch him. So I think Sting will be fine.
And honestly, like we said, I think Sting's wrestling more now than he did ever through 97 to 99.
Yep. Keep talking. My headphones fell off.
His headphones fell off. But he can still talk. There we go. He's got him back on.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Yeah. I fixed him.
But, yeah, it's just really interesting because, like, yeah, it's really, I thought when you had this idea of bad wrestling, it was just bad wrestling, but a lot of the bad stuff is good, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's like I said. I said it in my first paragraph. I mean, it's a generic term, right? Bad wrestling, but it involves bad writing, bad performing, unplanned things. Malicious type of writing. Some stuff. You look at the legendary. This may be the most legendary bad wrestling clip ever. The Shockmaster.
Right.
And I mean that
was
is
a complete
so
and total
entertaining, dude.
But honestly, let's say that does go through and everything was fine and he doesn't fall. He's still wearing
bad.
It's still bad because he's wearing a spray painted stormtrooper helmet.
And there's a Yoda voice too. He's got a Yoda voice.
And they didn't even try to not look like. And would he have like a fur coat on too? It was just. It just seemed like
dude.
I don't think he needed to fall like that to make it bad.
No, that would have been a legendary moment either way. But that just made it way better because the dude just like ate it. So
but, see, that was an accidental thing. But then you have stuff like the finger poke of doom and all that kind of thing. That was just absolutely.
I don't hate that as much. People always say, "Oh, it's the worst move ever." It's like, dude, they're on the same team. That's what That's the joke. That's the thing. I never got why.
And then WWE did something similar. When they had the European title match between Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
And one of them just laid down.
Yeah. And they did this celebration, and Shawn Michaels acted all disappointed. It's on one of the, it was like a Christmas episode of Raw in like '97. It was funny though because that's what DX was, right?
Yeah, so. And I mean, look, they tease it in New Japan sometimes, right? Like when they have
right.
So I mean, that, and I didn't really get that moment. How about Jake the Snake during Active Addiction wrestling? Would you call that bad wrestling?
I mean, when he was coming out there wearing, like, the full shirt,
And when he was, like, giving promos and referencing his snake as a dick. And the show, we've probably talked about it.
It was better than Bible verses, I guess.
Yeah, probably better than that. They that Heroes of Wrestling show often considered the worst wrestling show of all time.
Yeah, and that's bad.
That is bad. It's like not even funny.
Yeah.
It's
that's,
uncomfortable, if anything.
The backyard wrestling or just, the wrestling at the state fair or whatever. That's a whole different level of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I will say, seeing inexperienced people, we're talking mostly about mainstream companies, but definitely seeing inexperienced kids fucking grasshopper and hyperextend both their knees after jumping off the top rope. That is bad stuff. That's just like, don't do that, dude. Don't do that.
Don't try that at home.
No, I mean, look, man,
or anywhere, really.
I hurt my own knee. I buckled my own knee with a very small, with nothing that was crazy.
Well, how's that feeling now, Violet?
It's better. I've definitely lost flexibility in it, but the shitty thing about it is like once in a while it'll just like want to try and bend inwards, like my knee. You know how when you hurt a limb sometimes or a joint, it'll like bend in a weird direction?
Welcome to your mid-30s.
Well, I'm trying to run. I want to go back to running, so I need to talk to the doctor. I want to be like, yo, when can I run again? Because I don't want to run and then blow it out.
Did I tell you about my shoulder?
No.
So, when Maria had COVID, I was sleeping on the couch, and since then, my shoulder, like, my left shoulder, kind of just doesn't feel right.
Oh, God.
And, it's like internal. I thought it was maybe a rotator cuff or just, right now. Ugh. But,
that sucks.
I was explaining to Maria, and he was like, in Japan, they call that 40 shoulder.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, that's probably exactly what it is. Damn it.
It's 40 shoulder.
So, that's what they call it in Japan. So, it's 40 shoulder. Makes sense. I guess I just have to admit that's what it is.
So you got a 40 shoulder and your son's got hospital arm.
Right. I guess,
So,
there's a call back from a prior
personal conversation.
I don't even know if we talked to that on.
No, we've never mentioned on the air, but his son had an injury.
Well, the technical term for what that was called nursemaid's elbow.
Oh.
And sometimes you have young children whose elbows kind of pop out of the socket.
Yeah.
Not if you just pull on their arm, but like, for example, my youngest son, when you would walk in the supermarket and he would try to run away, but you were holding his hand, his elbow would pop out or whatever.
Jesus.
So he would have to go to the emergency room and have it popped back in. So that's called nursemaid's elbow, and usually small kids grow out of it by the time they're 5 or whatever, but that's what we're referencing.
Well, you know, man, you better be careful with that 40 shoulder. You're probably going to have to get Tommy John surgery pretty soon here.
That's elbow.
Oh, is it?
Well, Tommy John surgery is where they take a ligament from a cadaver and they put it in your elbow to replace the torn ligament.
It's kind of funny that one sport fucked your arm up so bad that they had to come up with literally a surgery just for that sport.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And it's saved careers, and it's one of the most innovative things ever. But it's, to me, it's crazy that you got like a dead person's ligament. Well, I guess you get, it's no different than getting an organ donated, but
wow.
But
that's pretty intense, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes. So I hope your shoulder feels better. We're all in pain, man. And yes, I am in my 30s. It
only hurts
now.
when I do this, you know. So.
Well, that's it. Tell the doctor that. It only hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah, it's just one of those things. But at least it's not my throwing arm or anything like that.
At least you're not having a toothache, bro. Those get real fucking bad. So I'm just gonna say that. Jobbers, you know, often job. Oh, so we're moving on back to wrestling, guys. So jobbers.
Yes.
So often a jobber obviously is supposed to look like an idiot, you know. But especially in the 80s, you'd get some jobbers, man, that were just like...
But we're talking guys that literally looks like they just took them out of the crowd and put them in there.
Yeah, early Raw jobbers, you know, guys wearing like bright pink spandex and just like... I mean...
Well, that's how the Hardys started, right?
I think they played like the King of the Ring boys. But they were probably jobbers too.
You had guys in the 80s like Frankie Williams and just guys that just looked like they were literally, you know, recruited from the truck stop or something.
You know who's become that guy on AEW is JR. No, it's not JR Cradle. No, it's I can't remember his name, but it's this really big dude that keeps like jobbing to people on AEW Dynamite. And what was his name? I think he was champion in like NWA recently, but
something gray, right? I know what you're talking about, like
the big dude with the beard.
Yeah, he's got like a grayish beard, right?
Yeah.
I know JD Drake.
JD Drake,
like
yeah. But he's actually okay, like, you know.
But we're talking more if you want a comparison of what we're talking about. And you're a Laps fan like us, or just you want a more modern example of what we're talking about, James Ellsworth is probably a classic example, right?
Kind of. James Ellsworth, I thought, was actually kind of funny, and they had some funny angles with him. But we knew he was a moron and stuff.
Right, but he was that stereotypical, like, you know, guy on the other side of the ring that you knew was going to get killed.
Yeah.
You wasn't like.
Oh, against Braun Strowman?
I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how he started.
Yeah, exactly.
He got a nice little run out of that, too. Good for him.
He did. He had a good little thing with AJ Styles and John Moxley that I found entertaining. But yes, you're right. It was like this. It's just a geek, this dude who is gonna get killed. Yeah, they meant to do it.
No chin music. That was pretty.
No
funny.
Chin music. Yeah, and of course they meant to do it that way. But not all those dudes were talented either. Some of them had bad looks and were bad wrestlers. I remember again watching. I'm trying to remember what that WCW show was. It in the 80s with like the
Saturday Night.
No, it was like a globe. They had a globe. It was like an NWA type show,
worldwide or
something like that. Yeah, Tony Schiavone was on it and stuff. But I remember watching some jobber matches there, and one of the jobbers just kicked the fuck out of the dude in the head, and the dude paid him back, and it was just it was so bad. He kicked him, he kicked him as hard as he could in the head, it was a total fuck up. So,
right. Well,
I wish we knew more jobbers. I'm sure that people are aware of all the bad jobbers, and some of them got pretty famous. Well, not famous, but known doing that shit. Speaking of
it's funny how you mention that, because every once in a while I have someone tell me that they want me to draw all the jobbers from the 80s and 90s.
Oh, God. No one would buy well, you'd have to draw, like, all of them at once.
I buy a lot of stuff that people don't buy, so it's not that big of a deal. But
okay.
I don't know. I'm not feeling the idea. I understand the
you got to draw what you want to draw, Justin.
That's definitely what it is. I just draw what I want.
Instead of like, I don't think it's very fun to draw people you don't even care about. You know?
Right.
So,
yeah.
It's and then finishing up individually bad wrestlers, unless we some pop into our head. I'm sure we missed a bunch. We didn't bring up Brodus Clay. He kind of sucks. He's way worse now.
I didn't really see a lot of his matches, so I couldn't really comment. I know who he is and everything, but I don't remember seeing a lot of him.
Oh, seeing him now, though, is just like, oh, my God.
I read the most I remember since I've been back was him being Matt Hardy's kind of bodyguard in TNA.
Oh, okay. He's probably better in that role.
Or EC3 already. No, he was actually pretty good in that role.
Yeah.
I thought. I don't know.
My bad.
Or was it EC3s?
My headphones keep popping out. I apologize, but say that again.
No, I was thinking, was he either EC3 or Matt Hardy's or both bodyguard? I can't remember now.
I think he worked with a bunch of people in TNA, you know.
Right.
Oh,
circa 2016, 17, something like
that. Yeah, exactly. But I've heard he was quite bad in WWE. So.
Yeah, I didn't see. I know he did the whole like dancing thing with the
the Funkadactyls.
Yeah, with Cameron and see, it's boring me just talking about it.
Now wake up a little bit, bro. Name? We still got a while to go. Come on.
No. Naomi, right?
Alicia Fox, and was it not Alicia Fox? Well,
no, I think it was Cameron. Remember? Cameron?
Oh yeah, Cameron and Naomi. Okay, Alicia Fox. We didn't bring her up. Even though she is kind of cute, to be honest, she has her little charisma.
She's entertaining.
She is. Yeah, she is entertaining. But a lot of people make fun of her for being such a terrible wrestler.
Not a great wrestler.
Oh, Eva Marie.
Yeah,
she sucks, dude. Really.
They even gave her another chance too, and that didn't last. But
she's got one skill, bro. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
What?
Well, her looks were, know, like that's somebody that like makes you stop when you're going through the channels, and I think anyone, just she's very unique and kind of striking that you're gonna stop because of the way that she looks.
Yeah.
And I think especially even to this day, WWE is going to give that person a shot, Yeah. Because I don't think anyone really channel surfs anymore. I think that those days are over. But
some boomers do, but...
Yeah, but even then you're just going through the guide. You're not just actually going channel to channel. So...
those were actually kind of fun times, except when you went around the horn and nothing was on. That sucked, Then you had to find something.
That's what happened more often than not.
And you had to find something. By the way, this is a side note, but I thought this was interesting. I just read that Brian Gewirtz is coming out with a new book in August.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Dude doesn't need to write a book. He's got that $7 money. But check this out. It's going to be called There's Just One Problem. True Tales from the former one-time 7th most powerful person in WWE.
How much of that can he actually write? I mean, don't they make you sign these hardcore non-disclosure agreements when you leave WWE?
Things change, and sometimes those what are they called? NDAs can be 10 years long, But also look at fucking, what's his name? The guy who Wrestle Talk guy, the something to wrestle with, Bruce Pritchard. If he has said what he said, then clearly there's nothing.
Well, he was always very, Vince-sided, and, he's a bullshitter himself, so.
Yep.
But no, I was going to say, speaking of jobbers, did you see who was playing the Brooklyn Brawler on Young Rock?
No, who is it?
Colt Cabana.
Oh, that's cool.
Have you ever watched Young
I
Rock?
won't. I'm
Yeah,
not interested in
you should
that.
watch it. I've watched a few episodes. It is really good. I haven't really. My uncle keeps saying, "Why don't you watch it? Why don't you watch it?" It's actually really good. It's actually very good. It's a very cute show. I think you would enjoy it.
I'm sure it's fine, man. I'm just...
Yeah, I'm telling you, any wrestling fan should like that show. It is good. They have actors that play...
Yeah, I've seen that, and he's like a teenager now or whatever. No, he's in the WWE now. And they did an angle with it with freaking Roman Reigns and stuff, yeah.
Right. It's actually a good show. I mean, I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it, but I have watched some episodes, and it is good. It is
okay,
good.
Well, you've heard it here
done.
first, people. Go watch Young Rock and then get back to us on it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, man. I got distracted because I'm looking at NXT talent and Nikita Lyons came up, but we'll go back because I don't need to be sitting there looking at pictures. NXT's got some real bad talent there. A lot of young talent, not ready for TV. You don't really watch it, do you? Okay, no, I watch it.
I haven't watched it. What was the last kind of pay-per-view thing they did?
Stand and Deliver.
I watched some of that, and I just.
But you used to watch all the pay-per-views, right? Like all the takeovers.
Oh yes, absolutely,
okay.
And probably looked forward to more than most of the WWE shows.
Definitely.
But, I understand what they're doing with it now. Yeah, I just don't. One of those things.
No YouTube highlights, huh? You don't even watch YouTube highlights.
No.
It takes like 3 minutes, bro. You do. Well, you do. You just don't want to.
No, I just do other things with it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I just don't. I'm not. When I watched it, and I don't know anybody, and I just don't want to.
You don't want to know anybody.
Make the effort into getting to know them. It's nothing personal. I'm sure some of them might be okay, but I just don't feel like,
Yeah.
Don't want to put the work in, I guess.
Yeah, you got, and some of these wrestlers are actually pretty good, but they are just, their gimmick is so terrible. It's kind of like mid 90s WWF, horrible gimmicks people are given, and
right. I've seen a guy that's like a mafia guy, or just wearing the jersey. I don't know. It's terrible.
The what you would call a wife beater, a tank top they call it nowadays. I apologize if I offended anyone by saying that term, but yeah,
or somebody that dresses like a Mormon that rides a bike in the neighborhood kind of thing.
Have you heard of Wendy Chu?
I remember her actually being in NXT, but then she does this whole sleeping thing. I've never seen it happening, but I've seen pictures and stuff.
Her gimmick is that she likes to sleep. Now, how do you think that went in creative? Oh, talk to us, Wendy. What do you like to do? Let's find out your gimmick. She goes, I like to sleep. They're like, okay, well, we can work with that then. We'll make you...
give her credit, because she's probably been there longer than anybody else. She might actually have the longest tenure in NXT.
Really?
To be honest with you. Who's still there?
Well, she signed...
Who's the longest?
Roderick Strong's not there anymore. Dude,
No, she was there longer than him. She's probably been there since 2017 or something.
2018. It was her Mae Young Classic, but then I think she got re-signed.
So 2018, I don't think anyone on NXT roster has been there since 2018 that hasn't been up and back.
But she re-signed with WWE NXT in February of 2019. So she's only been for 2 years, bro.
2018.
Or 3 years. I mean, Dakota Kai was there for much longer.
But she's not there anymore. I'm saying right now.
Oh, there's I don't know. I think Cameron Grimes might have been around longer than her. Could be
probably about the same time.
Io Shirai's definitely been around longer than her.
Is she still in NXT?
Yeah, she is. A lot of these women are. Alba Fire's been around, but she also wrestled NXT UK. Yeah, her name now is Kaylee Ray was her old name. Yeah, they changed names too, and that's another terrible thing about NXT is constantly changing names, giving people the names are terrible. Casey Catanzaro, who also I think has been in NXT much longer than Wendy Chu.
It seems like they kind of just make it to what FCW used to be, right?
I don't know about that. I think they're just turning it into WWE Light, and I don't think that FCW was back then when you had Dean Ambrose going against Seth Rollins in a hardcore match and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean, it was purely developmental.
In that
NXT
sense, yes, it is. It got too big. It got bigger than, it became more than developmental. It became like...
But I think it got to the point where they didn't want to... They wanted it to be clearly a different level. They wanted it to be below what Raw and SmackDown are.
Well, like you said, it's pure developmental. They are training people to be on WWTV now.
Right. But when you watch the presentation of it, is that how it is, like, kind of, like, pitched to the audience? Like, here we are at the, one of these days they'll be on the main roster. Do they talk about how they're a young prospect that is going to be on Raw one day?
They talk about stuff in that way sometimes, but no, it's presented as a normal wrestling show. But of course, you've got like the other wrestlers that come down from the main roster and talk like that, like, "Oh, you're going to be a big star one day."
Is Dolph Ziggler still the champ?
No, the champ is Braun Breaker.
Oh, he won it back.
Yeah. But, I mean, who's been down there? Oh, you have the women's champion has been Mandy Rose for, like, a while. And then you had Natalya there recently, too. But,
so weird.
But getting onto the main topic, yeah, there's a lot of bad shit there. Ikemen Jiro, who's actually a very good wrestler, has been put into a horrible situation because Kushida left, right? And so now it's just Ikemen Jiro by himself, and he's like attacking people backstage and stuff now, which is like not his character at all. You've got
it's kind of sad that we're doing an episode on bad wrestling and we have this whole segment on NXT.
Well, it's what it's become, man.
Never thought it would go to that.
Yeah, you got, again, I was telling you before this, Saray, who has a magical pendant that changes her form when she walks out. And then her guy friend became a cheerleader. So I thought you'd be interested in that. You had dudes just disappearing from the show because they get cut, One day a guy's there, and then the next week they'll be like, "Oh, I really miss that guy."
They really will say that?
Well, like, so...
they reference
yes, they reference him because Indy Hartwell was married to Sam Shaw. What was Dexter Loomis? And then, like, the next episode, she's all like, "I can't believe my boyfriend left me."
Really?
Yeah. Jeez. My husband left me. So, just a lot of stuff there, man. Maybe the worst is Lash Legend, and I can't even see her on the... I can't know what that is. She was a women's basketball player, and I didn't notice that they added rainbow colors to the NXT title. Did you know that?
No.
Okay. Anyways,
not against it.
No, it actually looks pretty. It actually looks okay. No, the men's title.
Both.
But it actually looks okay. But
yeah.
But
I'm not mad.
No.
I like the color in the logo and stuff. I'm just, more concerned with the people there, I guess.
Yeah.
Is Tommaso Ciampa still on there?
No, he's on the main roster.
Is he doing anything of significance?
No.
Did they bring him up with like a top hat or something?
They brought him up, and now he's kind of like disappeared already.
Mid-card.
Yeah, what was it? They got one of their best wrestlers. Who's the British guy? Pete Dunne? And then they turned him into Butch.
I saw what they do. Yeah.
He's a small guy with an attitude, Justin.
He's the little ferocious dog.
Yeah.
That would bite at your heels or whatever. Yeah. It's
awesome characterization there. Let's talk about some of the worst matches we've ever seen. I'm going to start this off real quick with one of my all-time favorite worst matches that I turned it off while I was watching it, and then I went back and watched it again, and I laughed, and that was The Fiend versus Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell. Legendary.
Yeah, that was pretty stupid. the red light on the whole time.
The red light, the DQ, and a no DQ match, which is like
I got one, but I'm assuming it'll be on your list.
But they had to go.
It's not recent.
They had to go back and like be like, oh, it wasn't a DQ, it was a ref stoppage. It's like, no, it was a DQ, and then like. One of my favorite parts was they actually had a dude named Dio Madden on commentary at the time who kind of sucked. And I remember he goes, what did he say? The Fiend pulls out a big hammer and Dio Madden goes, he's trying to impale him. And it's like, how do you impale someone with the fucking sledgehammer?
Yeah, that's not how that works.
Yeah, okay, give me what you got.
Well, I was thinking the dog kennel match with the Big Boss Man and Al Snow.
I've never seen it, but they said that he tried to feed his dog to Al Snow, and that is on like every list.
That was an angle, but they had this dog kennel match where they were where the dogs were just pooping everywhere.
Oh my god! Like in real life?
Yes.
Oh my god! Where are we headed in this society, dude? Yeah, that's on every list, but I never watched it. So I can't really comment.
Bad.
And, some of these I haven't seen. Japan was not, Japan, I looked up, like, worst Japanese matches. This is an interesting one. You had Hayabusa versus Mr. Gonosuke, okay? Now listen to this. Hayabusa was unmasked, and he was wrestling, and then there was another guy dressed as Hayabusa wrestling in this match. Does that make sense?
So it was two Hayabusas?
No, it was Hayabusa with no mask wrestling as a normal dude, and then a Hayabusa that wasn't the real Hayabusa.
Okay. Sounds like the Undertaker versus the Underfaker, right?
Yeah, except the real Hayabusa was just dressed as a normal wrestler. He wasn't dressed as Hayabusa at all.
Was he, was he Hayabusa?
I don't know what they called him, dude. So you understand how confusing this whole situation is?
It is, but it still could have been a good match.
And it wasn't even a good match. It wasn't even a good match. Another one was this was a Wrestle Kingdom match. They said that Tetsuya Naito versus Jeff Hardy, horrible match.
Wow, I didn't even know that was
like
a thing.
2005. Might have been a little.
Wow.
Jeff Hardy was drunk. Naito, young Naito.
Right.
It just didn't work out. Another one was the Wrestle Kingdom. You had Abdullah the Butcher, Iizuka, and Tomohiro Ishii versus Riki Choshu, Chono, and Terry Funk. But the problem was, these dudes were really old when they did this match.
Well, Abdullah the Butcher probably couldn't barely walk.
They said he could barely walk, dude, and that it was hard to watch. Terry Funk, real old.
He was, and beyond middle-aged and crazy, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Goldberg versus Lesnar. Do you ever see that one?
Anything Goldberg could be on the list.
Well, this match in particular was kind of, the fans made it much worse because it came out before the match that both guys were leaving the company right after the match.
Yeah. Oh, that was
so it was like, who fucking cares, dude? And they put on a boring, snooze fest.
Nobody cared. Yeah. Was that the one where he almost broke his neck doing the moonsault?
Oh, I don't know if it was that one, but I figured if it was, it would have been more impressive.
Oh, that was, or maybe that was the Eddie Guerrero match. I don't remember.
I get it confused. Did Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle both almost break their neck in dives?
Kurt Angle probably did break his neck.
But like in a dive in a match, or was that just Brock Lesnar doing shooting star press?
Probably. It's the only one I remember.
Okay, I'm getting them mixed up. We had Jenna versus Sharmell from TNA, and this match is famous because Brian Alvarez from the Wrestling Observer, you know what he gave this match? -5 stars. So that is the first -5-star match. Consider one of the worst women's matches of all time. Now, I've listed this in here as a bad match, but this is bad in a sad way, not in a funny way, okay?
Okay.
Ibushi versus Okada, G1 Finals.
Yeah, that's not a bad match. That's just, that went wrong.
It went wrong, and it made it bad, dude, because it was supposed to be the most epic finals of this huge G1, and the match just ended, and it was terrible circumstances.
Might just be his last match in New Japan.
Probably for a while. We'll get to that in a bit. We've got Jeff Jarrett, Booker T, Nitro 2000. So this match,
anything in that time frame is probably terrible. So
this match had 4 boxes, and each box had a different thing in it. Like one box had a coal miner's glove. One box had the championship, and then the box opened too early, and the championship fell out.
It was like a box of gimmicks match.
Yeah. Oh, another one was the Elimination Chamber from a few years back with Mark Henry, Dolph Ziggler, and I remember the actual window popped off of Mark Henry's cell too early. And like he was so confused.
Didn't when in this year there was a botch where didn't Brock just throw Austin through it, or somebody, it got broke on accident and they had to improvise or something.
Really, that happened again?
Yeah,
I remember.
I thought Brock threw Austin Theory through it or something like that. I don't remember.
I remember that Hell in a Cell was so bad, or excuse me, that Elimination Chamber was so bad that Botchamania had an entire dedicated segment to it, and they were showing that the match got so out of control that the guys literally had to call a timeout and have a discussion in the middle of the ring. You know what I'm saying? It was all 5 guys just started talking.
They had to reboot it. Was that the one you were talking about before?
Yeah. They had to reboot the match. Dolph Ziggler was telling people, all right, you go here, you go. So, I mean, it's easier if there's 2 people, but when there's all 5 or whatever dudes, that's a little more difficult to communicate. So, very, very funny. The Reverse Battle Royale. I've always heard this mentioned. You know about this one?
No.
TNA got so smart and they got so big-brained, galaxy-brained, that they said, fuck it. Fuck a battle royal. Let's do a reverse battle royal, where instead of throwing people out of the ring, you have to get over the top rope into the ring.
Okay, so they all fought on the outside?
Yep, and then the first 8 people that made it into the ring had a normal match.
What? So wait. The first 8 people that got into the
over
ring
the top
match.
rope.
So you had to get in the ring.
And then when the 8 people were in the ring, they had a normal match.
Oh, I see. So the whole idea was you wanted to get in the ring.
That's the whole idea.
It's different, I guess. I could see somebody sitting at a table, oh yeah, let's try it.
Yeah, it didn't work. It
didn't
work.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but I could see someone thinking that's a unique idea.
Yeah, it's one of those things you talk about it. Again, it's galaxy brain shit oh, this sounds genius. This is going to change everything. And then you actually do it, and you're like, we fucked up this time.
Yeah, right. What were you thinking?
How about, angles and stories? What did you think about Alexa Bliss, The Fiend, Randy Orton?
Stupid.
Yeah. And, in fact, I think The Fiend in general, I know you've defended him. I think he's a bad wrestler. I think the gimmick is terrible. I think the story. I don't even think the character was cool enough to get the he's not a great wrestler, but he's a good character.
It wasn't as good as Waylon Mercy, Cape Fear, Bray Wyatt. That was the best iteration of him. Hawaiian shirt, white pants.
That was probably the best and last iteration we'll see of Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, and then it got a little too weird after that. But when he was the cult leader and he had, Luke Harper, that was good.
Yeah.
And I thought that was one of the things that drew me back in, was seeing that presentation.
I think that peaked before I got back in, because you had those 3 versus the Shield, and you had John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, maybe at WrestleMania, and I missed those.
That's when it just, when that character lost to Cena like that, that was kind of, he did win the title a few times, but it just, I don't know. Nothing was better than when he had the white pants and the.
But there was some real bad stuff from there too. I mean, you had the Fiend versus Randy Orton WrestleMania.
That was terrible, but that was beyond that.
The Freak Show match.
Yeah, that was all terrible.
Yeah, you had the Fiend versus the Undertaker at WrestleMania in daylight.
Yeah,
didn't time that one out properly.
Nope.
Up in Santa Clara.
It was a West Coast, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of gimmicks with the Fiend, especially, it was kind of funny at first when he was doing his fun house. That was kind of funny, right? But
yeah, that was.
But
totally
it really jumped the shark, hardcore, eventually, with the Fiend stuff and fireballs. This was one of my all-time faves. Who tried to kill Roman Reigns? Did you ever see that story on SmackDown?
Roman Reigns.
Was it Roman Reigns? I think it was Roman Reigns who tried. So Roman Reigns is backstage and this whole cart fell over. This big
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I was kind of in and out. I'm in and out. Probably started part of my in and out thing where I just didn't. Was that when he was out with something?
I don't know if he was out. I think he was still part of the show, but just the way they tried to do it was so bad, and it literally just stopped. They just stopped. They had this story that was going to last 2 weeks. They did no, they had a story that was going to last a month. They did 3 weeks of it, and then it just disappeared. The story just did. They got way too smart for it. They tried to do way too much shit.
Right. I do remember it, but I don't remember how it concluded.
I'll tell you, it was horrible. First of all, they had a masked guy, right? And they were like, oh, who is the masked guy? And they pulled off his mask at the end of the show, and it was a fake version of Eric Rowan.
Oh, yeah. And wasn't that where Daniel Bryan was questioning him? And
yeah.
Didn't you have some kind of animal in the bag?
And then there was an animal in the bag, and you didn't know what the animal was. And then guess what? They never mentioned it again.
Right. The Daniel Bryan Planet saving champion was pretty cool, though.
Well, that was good, but again, we're talking about bad wrestling.
Too. Yeah. I'm just saying, just a little side.
Look, we're talking about bad wrestling. There are certain names we'll never bring up. We're not talking about Okada or Daniel Bryan, even Cesaro. Those guys. I would barely even bring up people that just are good at their job, like someone like Sheamus.
Right.
Hey, if Vince decides he wants to put you into the storyline, for example, I thought another terrible one was the attempted movie tie-in between Austin Theory and Vince McMahon, and that only happened a few months ago. He was trying to. He had a golden egg. Oh God, dude. Yeah, he gave.
Oh, right. He took a picture with it, and
and it was all a movie tie-in to the Rock's movie.
No, it was the brass ring or something. Oh, right.
Oh my God, the zombie run-in at one of the matches. Did you see that one?
Yeah, that was one of the points where I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I think I might be wasting.
Was that the Miz?
Yeah, the Miz. Was it Damian Priest? No, couldn't have been. He was in NXT. But yeah, and then the zombies came in. What the fuck? But that is a whole other side of bad wrestling is terrible celebrity, and you talk about David Arquette, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that was pretty bad.
Lately, the celebrity stuff's been getting a lot better, though. Would you agree with that? They've all the companies have done okay with celebrities, choosing people that really want to wrestle.
I mean, it's been better. It definitely. I mean, when I think of guys like Bad Bunny and
Jake Paul or Logan Paul,
I still don't want them involved per se.
Really?
But it's been better.
You don't want them involved. You don't think they should even be on the. You don't think that Jeremy? What?
I'll give a guy like Bad Bunny all the credit in the world, for the way.
What's Arrow's name again?
I should know.
Stephen Amell. So I mean,
Amell,
you don't think Stephen Amell had any right to be there?
It's nothing personal. No, they probably do have a right to be there. I just don't have it doesn't appeal to me to want to see. Does that make sense?
Did you watch Stephen Amell versus Christopher Daniels at All In?
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was okay.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I'm not no, and even the match she had with Neville and Goldust or Stardust or whatever.
The superhero match.
It wasn't bad. Yeah. No, it's just to me like sometimes I don't like when celebrities get involved just as a premise.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that some of them don't work hard. Like Bad Bunny was very impressive with the stuff he did and all that stuff, but I just don't like seeing celebrities in it. That's
no, I kind of understand.
It's a stupid phobia I have of it.
I understand because, like, one of my things has always been voice acting. Like, instead of hiring professional voice actors, they often just hire celebrity actors. You know,
it's just so they can put their name in the credits. But it's
not everyone's like, Robin Williams.
If an NBA game all of a sudden like. You've seen those kind of like...
Bad Bunny got put in halfway through the game?
Well, for example, like... Yeah, exactly. Or like, you see those kind of, TMZ stories about how Adam Sandler's a good basketball player. And then all of a sudden he's playing for, the Nuggets.
Just one quarter.
Like, I'm not saying that he's not a good basketball player or, like, maybe he didn't work hard enough to do it, but, like, I don't want to see him on the basketball court. I want to see the professionals out there. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's all it is.
Well,
nothing personal, Adam Sandler, and he's actually probably a really good basketball player, but I still don't want to see him play in the NBA.
Are you a good basketball player?
Not anymore. Maybe I was probably okay when I was in my 20s or whatever.
Basketball is hard as shit, dude. It's very physical and one of the most tiring sports I've played, and I used to wrestle. Not as bad as wrestling, though. Wrestling is the hardest sport, in my opinion, in the world. Okay. Real wrestling. So, okay, what else do I got written here?
Amateur wrestling.
Well, you could get paid to do it. Billy and Chuck.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah,
just kind of lame.
Didn't age well.
Yeah, the custody battle angle
with Eddie and
legendarily bad angle with that actually has results to this day. It has implications to this day because young, the little guy is wrestling now, Dominic.
Yeah, and he's like 6'5", and it's hilarious.
Yeah. And the invasion angle. You ever watch that? Go back on the network and watch the invasion angle.
So bad.
Such a great idea, too. That one is very disappointing because, like, the whole concept is actually pretty cool, but...
No, the concept is fine, but they didn't have... WCW didn't have the guys to pull it off.
They got a bunch of, like, weird dudes from WCW, and it was just like, I don't know. It's just fucked up.
It was like Shane Stasiak, Chuck Palumbo, and, like... It wasn't
Sting,
you wanted
Booker
Nash
T,
Hall, Kevin Nash, Goldberg.
Ric Flair.
Those are the guys who you wanted for that angle. Yeah, Ric Flair. Those are the guys that you needed for that angle, not a bunch of guys from the power plant, really.
Did you see the Viking Raiders versus the Street Profits when they were playing games against each other and doing, competitions?
Terrible.
That was one of the worst things I've seen.
I remember at the time, it's like, can't we just see these guys have a really good wrestling match? Because that's
it's like every week, it's like, let's see who's better. It's like, bro, only one thing matters with who is better than who. Fucking wrestling, dude. It don't matter if you guys are fucking doing the 100-yard dash. And a lot of subtle racism there, too. Like, a lot of just weird shit in that one. So that was fucking terrible. That was actually bad enough to actually be kind of funny. A lot like some of the 24/7 stuff. And some of the 24/7 stuff is actually funny, honestly.
No, it is. Some of it's amusing. It's just really what the hardcore title was. It's the modern version of the hardcore title.
Yeah, but it's obviously PG now, right?
Right. That's what I mean, modern version.
But actually, they have the same thing, and they've had the same thing in DDT for years, and that is much funnier, I think. I mean, the idea that the belt can win itself because it's folded over and it pinned itself. A ladder has won the belt before. I think an entire crowd won the belt once.
See, that's one of those things where, like, if you're going to do something like that, take it all the way, I
agree, man. 24/7 stuff. David Arquette, like I said, he became the champion, kind of invalidated the whole title. Now, that is one of those things where I'm like, at least nowadays, they put a lot of the celebrities into, middle of the line, like mid-card roles. So this idea that some skinny dude from the movie Ready to Rumble was like winning the same belt that Ric Flair held, still shocking to this day.
Yeah, they were really grasping for straws with that one, and I think they just got desperate, and they were trying to get headlines, and it ended up really doing a disservice to everybody involved, to be honest.
Including mostly the viewers. And then finally here, we love some really bad promos or fucked up promos where the promo goes sideways and they say the wrong thing. I mean, have you ever heard of, what was it? Seth Rollins trying to say stack the deck. That was one. Dick the stack. Stick the... He couldn't say it properly. That's always pretty funny.
Yeah.
What are some you remember? Sid?
What was the Hogan stumbling over a bunch of lines?
When he was repeatedly saying, like, I'm the right gay guy and I'm the gay...
Something like
and he just kept fucking up. And Vince is staring at him like, what?
That's probably the most memorable one.
I do love a good sexual innuendo on accident. You see those a lot. So you're going to have... I'm
going to come for you. I'm going to come on you or whatever.
The other one was... who said it? Maybe it was Hulk Hogan, but he's like, I'm going to jerk you until your breaking point. Dude, there's actually a whole compilation of them.
Yeah,
and they are so funny, bro. It's always... I think the one where he said, there was one girl... Okay. There was one girl, she was being interviewed by Mean Gene, and she said something along the lines of like, something along the lines of the person above me is going to have to like get on top of me and all over me, and Mean Gene just starts laughing his ass off, He was
the best.
So, those were great. So, but in conclusion of bad wrestling, look, wrestling, it's any other art form. There's good and there's bad. And sometimes that bad can transcend and be good. And we're still talking about the Shockmaster to this day. Right. Sometimes the bad can be tragic and sad when people get injured. It's terrible. And sometimes, it can just be so bad that it is just plain bad,
Or sometimes the bad seemed like it was good at the time.
Or that's a different one. It went from good and then times changed and now it's like, why are we doing finishes where he threw him over the top rope and that's the end of the match?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. You think we covered it pretty good? Bad wrestling, man. It's really part of any wrestling fan's life. You've seen it, We try to avoid it.
And there's a lot of different interpretations of it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I think we covered all the bases.
There's people that watch New Japan and think that shit's terrible, They think that's bad wrestling. But,
what universe is that?
It's like Jim Cornette and stuff like that, those people I don't want to look at all these people with names I can't even pronounce doing their thing, man.
I have heard him acknowledge that Okada has the best drop kick ever, so.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Cornette. So, yeah, maybe later we'll talk about bad wrestling podcasts, of which there are quite a bit. But it'd be weird to put our own podcast on that list, so... Okay, Okay.
You probably have to.
Oh, no, we're good, dude. We are good, brother. We're killing it. By the way, did you see the video of the little kid promoing on Hulk Hogan and just destroying him? No. Oh, God, I'll have to send it to you after.
Okay.
But Hogan is doing a signing at like a beach shop or something, and this little kid goes, "Let me tell you something, brother," and then Hulk Hogan interrupts him like, "No, let me tell you something," you know what I mean? And then the kid just cuts this promo that's actually like really good. He's like, "You and the Hulkster," and it got me thinking, what the fuck little kid nowadays is a Hulk Hogan fan?
It's really bad parenting there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my kid, he was an Okada fan, dude. So, I mean, you got to get him while they're young, you know what I mean? He loved Okada. He hated Goto. That was my kid at the time. So let's move on. Let's shift gears, as the kids say. We already talked about Kota Ibushi and his injury. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, Justin, because everyone's talked about it. But in my opinion, Kota Ibushi is trying to get out of New Japan.
Yeah, I guess the most we got out of it is it's not just Gato that makes the calls there, I guess, right?
Well, of course not. It's a big company, right? Like, it's got Geto, though, is kind of, I think, maybe a type of Vince McMahon guy. And that's something we learned, too, in the text is, from what I could read, he actually did say, like, hey, I talked to Geto and he's cool with it, you know? So it kind of showed us that Geto is the boss, you know? But obviously there's people above that.
Well, I mean, I know the Super J-Cast was talking about how they kind of knew this, that Gato is, like, definitely a big influence there, but there is one guy that kind of does all the big picture stuff.
Well, I mean, there's a president of the whole company, and everything stops at him, I'm sure.
So there is, like, yeah, but they're the ones that say, we're going to eventually, Kenny Omega's going to be the champ next year, and then Gato puts it all together to figure it out.
I imagine they have a committee. Right, they all talk.
There's a committee. Apparently, there is somebody that is kind of the main big picture guy, and it's not Geto, but Geto's still very influential. That's what the allegedly.
My guess is Geto is the one who communicates to all the wrestlers.
But I think we've all kind of considered Kota Ibushi to be kind of a strange kind of person.
Oh yeah,
over the years, and even my wife said I look at his Twitter and like it's a bunch of nonsense what he says, right?
Really? And this is, by the way, people, his wife does speak Japanese. Right?
Oh, she says she doesn't understand the context of anything he's talking about. It's just
she doesn't know the situation either.
Right, no, but I mean in general, just the random stuff he tweets just in general. Not just about this.
Well, we've always heard that he's kind of a himbo. He's a weird guy socially. We've heard that, and he's done some weird stuff in the past. I mean, he's kind of jumped around companies in the past. He's dealt with injuries.
Yeah.
So here's what my thought is, though, is, okay, he's trying to get out of New Japan. He has to know that doing something like this is kind of unacceptable, even though the guy did fuck him over by threatening his career. So,
well, wasn't it like, allegedly I heard that, I thought at first it was, well, they were trying to rush him back, and he didn't like that. And then they thought he was milking his injury, or he just, like, they were paying him, and he wasn't doing anything, and they felt like they could get, that kind of thing. But apparently he was healthy. They wanted him for Wrestle Kingdom, and he said, I'm not ready. But then he was ready for the New Japan Cup, and that's why he got put on,
the bracket
or whatever. But then this guy who we're talking about as being,
and his name is Kikuchi,
big picture guy, basically said take him off.
Well,
and he got pissed
because
he thought he
someone
was
threatened his career. Kikuchi threatened his career. He said he threatened to cut him if he, and that's why he started posting shit on Twitter. He called the guy out, and he said, this dude, he literally said about the guy, he's like, I'll never talk to you again. You're a piece of shit. You threatened my career.
Right. And he's like, fine, cut me.
And it was because he went to a Just Tap Out show. So he went to a kind of different wrestling show, and, so he calls Geto, and Geto's like, I'm okay with that. That's not a big deal. And yet the other dude is threatening his career for going to that Just Tap Out show. So it's like...
Yeah. But they'll let, El Desperado have a death match a week before the Best of the Super Juniors.
Yeah. Well, it's all politics, right? But, I mean... Oh, God, it's really hard to see how he could keep wrestling. This is one of the biggest scandals in New Japan we've had in a really long time, probably since Kenny Omega was making those ridiculous claims that they stopped him at the airport and shit. But, I mean, and the thing about Japan...
That blew over, didn't it?
Yeah, it all blew over. Now he works with them again, in a way. But the thing with Japan is, scandals like this are pretty serious shit, dude. So, and there's a bigger issue here. He can't go and work for AEW, bro. That's not possible.
Why not?
Because AEW is best friends with New Japan, and New Japan will not like
But
that.
honestly, I don't. But at the same time, I don't think he really has any interest in going to AEW.
He might be working in Just Tap Out.
Or he just might go to, like, Noah or,
Maybe
back to
DDT. Yeah. I think DDT would accept him, but...
But I also heard that he is, like, kind of... doesn't really need money or anything.
I'm sure, right? But he does
and
like
plus,
wrestling.
the guy's 40
dude.
years old. He's 40 years old as well, so it's not like, And his body's been, he's gotten hurt a lot, so...
My guess was... This was my total, like, random guess that's not supported by any facts or evidence, but my guess is partly that he's seen what Kenny is doing, and he's, like, realizing his body is just as fucked up. And he probably is like, dude, I need time, man. I need, like, substantial time.
There's some truth to that. Like, you can see that the way that Kenny is just, like, being treated, and, like, he probably talks to Kenny still, I'd imagine.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, yeah, they're just letting me take all the time I need and, helping me get all the surgeries I need to get. And he probably's like, hey, why can't I get that?
Ibushi didn't even get surgery. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Ibushi, for his shoulder. And it's like, in Japan, the mindset is you work. You work, dude. Like, you might feel like shit, but you work. And maybe he's...
Or if you don't, you wait till, like Naito is going to get his eye surgery when it's the best of the Super Juniors.
You remember when fucking Tanahashi, like, fucked up, tore his bicep? And, like, he didn't get surgery and just started wrestling again within like, the next few months. I was like, my God, dude. Like, that's what they expect in a way. It's sad. It shouldn't be that way. But those are expectations, especially on these,
Yeah, I guess they're a little behind in that, mindset to the rest of the world, yeah.
In America, if you get injured and for a major company, you immediately get surgery, like, the next day. You know what I mean? And then they put you on the shelf for 5-6 months. But in Japan, it's like, nah, don't get the surgery. You'll just heal, and then, you don't have to recover from the surgery. You can just try to... It's crazy. I could only imagine. With what I went through with my knee, which isn't that big of an injury, right? Like, it's still hurting weeks later, dude. Now, imagine, we've talked about how much they go through, but my God. It's a crazy situation, and it's sad because we both like Kota Ibushi quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, sure. Definitely.
And I think we want the best for all the parties involved. So,
yeah,
very sad situation. Let's hope that the best can come out of it that will make all the sides happy. Moving on, something that makes me happy is the best of the Super Juniors.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty awesome this weekend. And you have Capital Collision.
Why don't you give people a quick and dirty intro of why this is an important best of the Super Juniors?
I mean, really, all you have to do is look at the lineup, right? I mean, look at the blocks and who they're letting into who's in the country now.
You want to list the lineup for people real quick?
Yeah, I got to find it. I don't think I memorized it off the top of my head, but I will.
You probably could, but it would take you a few minutes to...
Yeah.
It was a little sad that Gresham couldn't get into it. I missed him, and although he's become a heavy little guy, but he was real good.
Like he's got his own thing going.
Oh, that's true. He's champion, isn't he?
Doesn't he have his own company?
Oh, I didn't know about all that. But he's Ring of Honor champion too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So is
Yuta. Well, he's a pure champion.
Okay. Yeah. So in the Block A, you have Ace Austin. I don't know a lot about Ace Austin, but he is
X Division champion.
Yeah, so he's an Impact guy. You got Alex Zane. Is that another Impact guy?
No, Alex Zane was an NXT guy, and he wrestled a lot of New Japan Strong.
Right. What was his name in
oh, God,
NXT?
I don't remember. Tyler Rust? Okay. I don't...
No,
that's a different guy?
Yeah. He's a SoCal guy. Clark Connors, which is awesome to see him back.
Oh, yeah.
Back from it, this is his official back from excursion, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Kind of debut in Japan. And then you have, Francisco Akira.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Who is the best wrestler I've never really seen a match.
You've never
with,
seen him.
but
He's
supposed to be
great. Yeah, and he has been for years, and he's incredibly young. He is
22.
I am so excited. This kid is so good. He's been in Japan. He's a Japanese wrestler at this point, and I think he's going to be great. And now he's he's always been a smiley baby face, and now they're giving him some attitude.
Yeah, and then you got Hiromu Takahashi.
Nothing needs to be said about him.
Taguchi will have a good tournament. He always
Taguchi
does.
is just. I feel like Taguchi, right? He's always good, but lately I've been even more entertained. You gotta love that this is a dude that always does the same shit, but at the same time does different stuff all the time.
Yeah, he's kind of the he's a little better wrestler than people give him credit for. And then you got Shonyo, which is okay. You got Ishimori and Kanemaru, who looks 20 years younger without a mustache.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that he didn't have a mustache.
Yeah.
Both great wrestlers.
But I want to say, I'm noticing there in Block B, we have a lot of masks.
I felt like,
I think
I said that Block B is a lot more of the high flying, where Block A is a little bit different. But it does have some high flyers.
It's pretty mixed up because let's see here. So Ace Austin, is he a high flyer? I don't know enough about him. Is Alex Zane?
A little bit,
really, right?
Not as much.
Clark Connors,
not at all.
Akira is.
Kira is, yeah.
Hiromu is.
I would not call him necessarily a high flyer. He does have some jumping moves.
But usually,
though.
Yeah. Taguchi's not. Show used to be.
Show and Yo are not high flyers.
Ishimori's not really.
No.
Yo he's a little bit more. Kanemaru. Yeah, so then you have Bushi. I guess he's kind of a high flyer, but not really.
Bushi. Bushi is always Bushi is always the worst wrestler in all of this tournaments, and I would have liked to see someone else besides Bushi. He's okay.
He's not quite on the outside there. I would have liked to see. Well, anyway, a lot of masks, a lot of L's in Block B because you got Bushi, Doki, El Desperado, El Lindemann, El Phantasmo.
El Desperado.
But a lot of people are excited. El Lindemann and El Phantasmo.
Okay. The three L's.
Those are your L's, but a lot of people are excited about El Lindemann.
Oh, definitely. El Lindemann is very charismatic, actually, and he's very funny, and he can talk and just go, and he can wrestle. And this is really exciting. It's probably the biggest tournament he's ever been in.
Yeah, and, El Phantasmo was a guy who's probably ready to either become a heavyweight or do something a little different. So, there's that. Master Wato is there.
Master Wato. What do you have to say about him? He's there.
Yeah, he's there. Robbie Eagles, another guy that
definitely high flyer,
could win this. He's a high flyer and somebody that might even win. TJP, who
awesome wrestler.
Yeah,
in his first Best of the Super Junior, I believe.
I could have sworn he was.
He might have been because he's been wrestling for a really long time.
Maybe I remember him being on some tours, but I guess it wasn't Best of the Super Junior.
Well,
in the last few years, he was on some tours in Japan, right?
Yeah, I mean, not in Japan.
No, he was in the last couple years, like 1918. He was
in 2018. Oh, 2000
or 19.
Not that I remember, but it's.
I remember him being on some tours. Like I don't remember. No, he was because he was on like Hantai and stuff.
Okay.
He was teaming with Liger and stuff like that.
Okay, and also TJP was in Best of Super Juniors in 2011.
I thought they said it was his first.
2011 Best of the Super Juniors, TJP. So, yeah. Who else?
And Teton,
he's good. He's been in there before, and he has good matches.
And I think they wanted to get Dorado in there, but they were having some issues.
Oh, that sucks. Wow.
Yeah.
Mascota Dorado also in the 2011 Best of the Super Juniors.
and Wheeler Yuta, which will be
very
cool.
exciting. Wheeler Yuta coming off a big push in New Japan or in AEW.
So I'm really interested to see what they do with him in this tournament.
Yeah, he's probably going to lose a shitload of matches, dude.
But he's going to have to come out looking some. I bet you he's one of those guys who could win his first 5 matches and then lose. You know what I mean?
Or he could do the thing where he kind of sucks, but then like in the end he gets some wins against big guys.
But look what they're doing with him in AEW with like being with Danielson and Moxley. Like, is he just going to come back and get his ass kicked because he didn't do well in the tournament?
I'm hoping
It'd
that's
be really
not
cool to see what they do with that storyline. I think he needs to come out looking a little bit strong out of this. Right?
No, not necessarily, because he's still considered like a young guy. I mean, to me, like I said,
he's the only AEW guy on this thing, right?
Yeah, and he is a champion too. But I mean, in my eyes, Yuta, like he's the dude that gets a couple of big wins, maybe a surprise win or something, and then he's gonna lose a lot. But, you know, and then he comes back to AEW and they'll be like, just got back from his tour of Japan, you know, just competed in the Best of Super Juniors. They don't have to be like, oh, we got back and he won everything. I think just him going to Japan. And he
probably has 4 or 5 wins in him, I think, when I'm looking at the bracket. He should beat Bushi. He should beat Doki. He should beat Wato. And he should maybe beat TJP.
I don't know if I'd have him beat TJP or Doki. I don't know. Even though Doki is very low in the pecking order, and Doki also, but Doki's actually very good. So,
he is, but I'm not saying, but we're talking.
But I know, but it's like, I don't
think you can have somebody who's at the bottom of Suzuki-gun to lose to a guy in the AEW like that.
We'll see. I'm whatever it is.
Yeah.
Tony's okay with it, right? So I mean, we'll see, man.
But what it does is this is going to be awesome, obviously. But it really makes you wonder what they got up their sleeve for the G1.
Oh God. Well, if crowds can cheer, because a lot of wrestlers won't do it unless crowds can cheer, and that's what Brian Danielson has said, and some others. So.
But allegedly, they were going to start letting tourists in Japan in June. So,
dude, they're so late on this. We've talked about it inside, but they just need to let people start cheering now. It was like ridiculous like 4 months ago, and it's like it's almost to the point where I think they forgot. I think New Japan forgot that they made that rule.
I heard that. Were you telling me that there's other places and other events that are cheering?
Yeah, because it's not a government thing, dude. It's New Japan saying don't cheer.
They'll shake it off by then, or the fans will just start doing it.
They already are. Yeah, I've actually heard some people yell, but I mean, for big spots, everyone goes, "Oh," you know. So, yeah. But I mean, at like UFC or Ryzen and stuff. No, they just cheer. It's back to normal, dude. It's only in like wrestling for some reason.
Well, they might even do it for this. Who knows?
That'd be sick. Oh, that'd be sick if they were like, they came out right during the finals and they're all like, "You are now allowed to cheer," and then none of the fans would cheer because they're not used to it. So I'm sure it'll take some time to readjust. You know, maybe not. Maybe it'll just happen. But no, this tournament sounds great. Definitely the most excited I've been for a New Japan tournament in a good little while here. Just the mix is we're back to normal. There's no young boys in the tournament, you know.
No, it's just all the way.
Clark Connors had an incredible promo at the press conference. You know, very honest about, you know, I'm finally coming back. Spoke some Japanese. Yeah, that was really nice too. So.
Has an axe to grind because he's not a main eventing or semi-main eventing. Nights.
And
like
God, I can only imagine his homeboys are watching him, you know, going, I can't wait till it's my turn, especially Carl Fredericks, you know.
Yeah.
So, very just really exciting. The matchups, maybe we'll do a little more in-depth and talk about the actual matchups and do our prediction show or maybe something. I don't know, guys. We'll see. That could be fun.
Well, it starts this weekend.
Oh, it starts this. Okay, not tonight, right?
Sunday.
Oh, it's tomorrow night.
Saturday
tomorrow night it starts. Oh shit! I'm so excited. There's been a lot of Stardom. We haven't covered it. We haven't watched it. I kind of want to go back and watch some of that stuff. I heard it was pretty damn good. We haven't talked about Dontaku. Justin and I both thought the show was great. Awesome show. Lots of angles. Well booked. Well put together, dude. I always try to tell New Japan this. It's like, dude, do not give me fucking 5 tag matches on a big show. I don't want that. Yeah. Like, I want title matches and angles. And looks like that's what they're doing. So, man.
Maybe the whole pandemic thing has taught them to book that way.
Yeah. I mean, dude, we got some good shit coming up. We got Double or Nothing coming up in a few weeks.
Jeez, it's just, it's all here
now. Yeah, and I got a lot of people going to Double or Nothing. I've got people going to... You're not going to Dynamite, right?
Not as of now, but that
okay. I would recommend it. It's very fun. At the LA. How far is the Coliseum from you?
The Coliseum? I don't think it's at the Coliseum.
The Forum. I get them mixed up.
Oh, the Forum's by the airport. It's not that far. It's just that it's in the middle of the week.
It is a Wednesday.
I'd have to take the day off to go because, it would be like a 2 o'clock thing. So it's just
I forget it's so early over there.
Yeah. So I basically would have to take the day off.
Yeah, dude, when I went to AEW, we left right after I got off work at 3:30. By the time we got there, people were already wrestling for dark,
Right.
And so, well, we'll see what happens. If Justin goes, we'll get a feet on the ground report. I have my sister and my brother-in-law are going to all the events in California, and one of the events in Double or Nothing. So I'll have pictures and I'll get a first-hand report of, who was booing and who was cheering the loudest and all that stuff. So, what else do we got going on in the future, Justin? You got your website. You got T-shirts.
That's right. I got yours shipped out, actually.
Awesome. Yeah. Justin got me an awesome Eddie Kingston T-shirt. Very excited with Kawada Yellow, right?
Yes,
very excited to rep that for the wrestling and for in-ring art. We're starting a movement here, people. We really want you to be part of it too. Because we're trying to make our wrestling and in offices. So we need
full-time.
Yeah, we need, basically what I'm saying is send us money. So yeah. Besides that, we've covered it all, Justin. Bad wrestling, good wrestling, and everything in between. So, are you ready to get out of here?
I am, man. My allergies are killing me. If you haven't.
You've been doing pretty good with it, man. I haven't heard a sneeze or anything. So,
I know. I've tried.
Good job. Well, people, thank you so much. We will talk to you guys later.